Welcome to EDFD460, Imagination and Creativity in Education. My name is Adam Staples and I am your lecturer for the unit in 2018. And I'd like to welcome you to the unit first and foremost. And the purpose of this welcome video is really to step you through the online space that contains all the content for the unit and to sort of start the familiarization process with not only the unit itself, but also the way that it appears on Leo. Leo being the learning management system that we use at ACU. So the very fact that you're watching this video means you successfully accessed the unit. And when you access the unit, it would have looked like the screen that you can see at the moment. And so when you logged into this particular unit, you would have seen the header page, so where it tells you the actual unit. You would have seen a unit information section, a communication section, and an assessment section. And so what I'm going to do is go through these sections and then also go through a couple of the other sections that are relevant for the beginning of our studies. And as I step you through the unit, I'm also going to unpack some of the expectations and really sort of, the purpose of the unit as a whole. So when you access the unit, you would have clicked onto the unit information section. And within the unit information section, you have the video that you're watching at the moment, and you have some other important information as well with regards to the unit. Probably the most important one is going to be the unit outline. So you can download the PDF of the unit outline, and within that unit outline there are various different details and specifics of the unit, such as how to contact myself or Kayri. So Kayri Shanahan is the tutor in this unit. You've got details about the assessment tasks, details about the weekly schedule, details of the reading that you need to acquire between now and the end of week 1. And the unit outline also contains details about student services and various different aspects of the university that you have access to. So on this page, as I said, you've got there's a little bit of a bio about me and a bio about Kayri. So just to give you some contextual background about Kayri, Kayri studied this unit a number of years ago and has been a tutor in the unit for a couple of years, and she brings a real richness and uniqueness to the unit for various different reasons. Many of you would have worked with her last semester in EDFD459, and you can attest to what I'm saying. And those of you who are new to my units and certainly new to the online environment, you'll find that Kayri's expertise and sort of nurturing of new online learners is exceptional. And so I really encourage you to make really good use of both of us over the coming 12 weeks. Not only are we concerned with sort of upskilling you in terms of imagination and creativity in education, but we also want you to become really adept online learners. So that's a really important part of this unit as well. In order to access the other sections of the online unit, you'll notice that there's these small tiles at the top of the screen here. It's called the bread line. You can either click on those and they will take you to the other sections, or if you feel more comfortable doing so, you can go back to the home page, which is a page you'll become very familiar with over the course of the semester. The next section that is of interest to us at the moment is going to be the communication section. And within here you'll find 2 forums, and these 2 forums are essential to communication over the coming weeks. The first forum is questions and queries for Adam, and into there you would post any questions and queries you have that are of a public nature. So remember that if you have a question about the content or the setup of the unit or something similar, you can pretty much bet that one of your fellow peers will have the same question. So you're really encouraged to post those questions into these forums, because not only will my answer be able to help probably more than one person, but you're also becoming integral in the development of the community of practice. And community of practice, or COP, is something that you will find out about in detail over the coming weeks. There's also the important messages from Adam forum, and I will use this forum when I need to contact the cohort as a whole. So there are times when, very regularly, when I need to disseminate some kind of information or clarify a particular question, and I'll put it into important messages from Adam. So that we keep the unit streamlined, because there are quite a few of us in the unit, please can I ask that if you are posing a question or a query, that you put it into questions and queries for Adam. That just keeps the communication tidy. If you have a question that you think is of a personal nature and you don't want your fellow peers to be party to that question or query, please feel free to email me, and my contact details are in the unit outline. These forums do become busy, and I will alert you to a little task that I'd like you to complete over the coming weeks shortly, that will ensure that you do not become overwhelmed with messages in those forums. And part of what we do, so as we learn how to use the online space and become adept users of Leo, is to manage those forums. The other tile or section that is available for you at the moment is going to be the assessment section. And the assessments are detailed in the unit outline, and over the course of the week preceding the beginning of the semester, you'll notice that more and more information will begin to appear into this particular section. I haven't put the information in there at the moment, because it is available in the unit outline, and I want to make sure that we are, that we're not sort of overwhelmed with too much information. So I'll leave it for you to read through those. I'm not going to explain the assessments at this stage. The assessments will be part of the conversation when we have our first virtual gathering, which is going to be on the first Tuesday of the semester. So that's Tuesday the 27th, and I'll explain that in more detail momentarily. Now, those of you who are eagle-eyed, or those of you who have been part of one of my units before, will notice that there isn't any content to have a look at here. So in order to start accessing the content, what you will need to do is, at the end of this video, so once you watch the video, go back to the unit information section, and you will notice that on the right-hand side of the welcome video entry, there is a little tick box. So you should be able to see me highlighting it at the moment. These tick boxes appear throughout the unit, and this is another way that you sort of take control of the online space. You take control of Leo, and you can use these tick boxes to reveal information to you, so that you can continue with the unit. So what I'd like you to do is just watch this bread line up here. So where it says home, unit information, communication, and assessment, just watch what happens when I tick in this box. So I'm going to tick in this little box here with the presumption that you have watched the entire video. So when you click into that box, just watch the bread line, you will notice that, having confirmed that you've watched this video, that you can actually now see a section that's called week 1. So if I was to click on my home tab, you will see that we now have an extra section down here entitled week 1, and obviously within there is the week 1 content. So what I'd like you to do now is go through that particular section, the week 1 section, just to explain its structure, and to show how it fits in with the remainder of with the rest of the unit going forward. So for the time being, once you've clicked on the tick box for the welcome video, the only extra information you will see is week 1. My reasoning behind this is really based on over 10 years of teaching in the online space, where it is not helpful at the beginning of the semester to have access to all 12 weeks worth of content. If you think about it in a face-to-face unit, you don't get that. So if you're in a face-to-face tutorial, your tutor does not lay out 12 weeks of content in front of you. And it's just the same with the online environment. We want to initially drip feed the information a little bit and ensure that we're feeling comfortable with the space and the way that the unit is structured. And once you're up and running with weeks 1 and certainly weeks 2 and week 3, you'll find that the remaining weeks are really very simple to navigate. So when you step into one of these sections or one of these modules, what you will see is a title for that particular section. So week 1 is Learning to Learn Online. There will be a short introduction. Sometimes it'll be a little bit longer, sometimes it may only be a sentence. You will then see some coloured bars, and these coloured bars are a suggested way of starting that particular week. There's sort of, it's not rocket science about them really. They're very simple guidelines and they will be quite repetitive. But again, experiences show me that having this kind of structure and format in a section or a module really helps students just initially find their feet and then begin to enact upon the content. So in week 1, I've suggested that you familiarise yourself with the layout and content of the week. I should note at this point that every single week will look exactly the same. The only difference will be the colour of the bars and obviously the content, but each week will be the same. Then I've suggested that you access the questions and queries for Adam Forum. I ask you to download the Virtual Workshop 1 tasks. I'll explain those in a moment. To ready yourself to prepare to attend the Adobe Connect Session 1 on Tuesday the 27th, and then plan to access the unit regularly. If there's anything specific for each individual week, I'll have it listed in there. Then you will have access to the readings, so you'll have the title of the readings and you'll have the readings that are relevant to that particular week. Now, it may look like a lot of readings, but really some of them are very short, and these readings are designed to be accessed throughout the entire unit. Then there will be a list of resources that are relevant to the week in question. You will note in the readings and the resources, and indeed the forums, that they're named after the week. So the readings here are Cortex 1A, 1B, 1C, etc. So 1 referring to week 1. In the resources, 1A, 1B, 1C, again, these resources are specific for week 1. And so these resources will become, the purpose of them will become evident when you look at the virtual workshop tasks, okay? So try and refrain from clicking on them and madly just doing what you think is required. The key to this whole unit is going to be the tasks, and I'll highlight those to you in a moment. Then we have the discussion forums, and there may be 1 forum, there may be 2, there may be 3. Again, it will be outlined in good detail in the virtual workshop tasks. If there is an Adobe Connect session for the particular week, it will be listed. It will give you a link. So the link here, when you click on this link, it will take you to the Adobe Connect session. And we have a series of those. I think there are 7 of them over the course of the semester. And an Adobe Connect session is really a virtual gathering. So you can do it what is called synchronously. So you can join in this case, 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, by clicking on that link, and there will be some lecture, there'll be a clarification of unit requirements, that kind of thing. So it's a virtual gathering. If you cannot make the synchronous session, every session is recorded and you can then pick it up asynchronously. So just to reiterate, if you can't make an Adobe Connect session in the real time, you can always pick up the link very soon after, which is the asynchronous link. If you are an avid device user, you can download an Adobe Connect an Adobe Connect session app for both Mac, so Apple, or for Android devices. So just to reiterate that before I go through the virtual workshop, you have a very similar structure in each week. You'll have an introduction, you'll have the colored bars that are a suggested guide through that particular week, you'll have the readings, and apart from the required text which comes into play as of week 2, all of the text that we're going to be using are provided as online links and at no cost to you. You do need to download, you do need to purchase the required text, which I'll talk about in a second. There will be a number of resources for each particular week, and the purpose of them become evident when you look at the weekly tasks. There are discussion forums which you are required to interact in different ways as we go through the unit. There is an Adobe Connect session every other week. So if it's relevant, if there's one for that particular week, this ACS will appear in the weekly module. The virtual workshop, for those of you that have worked with me before, it used to be called the EDFD460. I began to be concerned that EDFD460 really did just come across as a series of tick boxes to be completed each week. So I've renamed it to virtual workshop, and this sort of, for me, signifies that there is a body of work to be done. It does not mean that you have to come together in a tutorial virtually and work together. It just means that there are a number of tasks that become more complex over the course of the semester that you need to engage with. So it is a body of work. It is that is interconnected. When you look in the assessment module, okay, the virtual workshops form assessment number 1. So there are 10 of them. Each one is worth 2%. So the whole of assessment number 1 is worth 20%. And these tasks it lists when they're going to be open. Okay, so open for you to actually start ticking them off, and when they close. Okay. You're in known danger at the moment, so don't worry about that for now. I'll explain that when we have our first Adobe Connect session. The way it's set up is the actual workshop itself, so the assessment part of it, for which you gain an award, is set up as a quiz. Now that is closed at the moment because I don't want people completing that until we've had our first Adobe Connect session. So what I do is I actually provide the tasks as a downloadable PDF. So if you click on the virtual workshop tasks, you'll see that there for virtual workshop number 1, there's a series of 16 tasks. Most of them are very simple indeed. So what you can do is you can actually download this and print it, and you can begin to work through some of the tasks, and you can certainly begin to familiarize yourself what is required. So when the virtual workshop opens on the beginning of week 1, you'll be able to start completing them. So my recommendation to you is to download those tasks now and read through, and there's no need to do them immediately. Some of them you can start to do. So you can certainly begin to do your introduction. You can respond to some of the texts. You can certainly look through the resources. In particular, you want to have a look at resource 1D, which is details about the required text, which you can buy online. You can either buy it as a hard copy or an ebook. So rather than me explaining week 1 as a whole now, there's no point in me doing that. What I'd like you to do is download those tasks as they step you through week 1, and you can look at those tasks and you begin to align them with what is in the unit outline. If it doesn't make sense, you put a question or a query into the questions and queries for Adam forum. When we have our first Adobe Connect session in week 1 of the semester, I will show you how to complete the quiz aspect of the virtual workshop, which is how you attain your 2% for each one, and how I'll also explain how you can tell that you've been successful in that. So I hope you found this step through the unit helpful. The the important thing to remember this is that Kari and I are fully cognizant that the online arena can be unnerving. For those of you who have already worked with us, I hope that you step forward and provide support to our new online learners, as you know, as many of you received support from experienced online learners in your first online unit with me, and so that the I suppose the crux with this is to understand that, you know, any question is a good question. Do not feel afraid to ask questions. If you don't ask questions in those forums, you know, you won't get the answers, and you won't be able to move forward. It's always very unnerving when there are no questions posed whatsoever and you want to, but I really encourage you that if that is the case, to be the first person to ask a question. You'll find you get a response very easily. This is a safe environment. There is certainly no avenue within this unit for people to be made to feel uncomfortable. And I draw your attention in particular in the week 1 module to resource number, where is it? Actually, not a resource, to Cortex 1C, which is about netiquette, and this is how we behave in the online environment. Remembering that this unit is a professional education unit. It's not Facebook, it's not Twitter, it's not Snapchat. This is a professional space. So we talk to each other respectfully, we communicate respectfully, we use effective means of writing, so academic writing, full stops, capital letters, etc. But I will explain that in greater detail in Adobe Connect session number 1. So welcome to the unit. Take some time to familiarize yourself. Remember that this is something new for many of you, so it might be a little bit like, whoa, what's going on here? That is normal and it happens to everybody. So take the time to familiarize yourself with the unit over the coming days, and remember, feel free, and in fact you are encouraged to ask questions. I look forward to working with you over the next 12 weeks, as does Kari, and I will be in communication with you again next week when we meet for Adobe Connect session number 1.